Good morning, students. Am I audible?
Good morning, ma'am. Yes, audible.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm just waiting for your class students to join. Fine. See, in the last lecture, we have started with the syllabus for COA. In the COA, the first part we have seen is the introduction or overview of computer organization and architecture. If you remember, in the last lecture, we have seen the exact definitions for organization and architecture, few examples on that. Then we have seen the bus interconnection structure. Three types of buses are there. One is data bus, which carries data of your program. Second is address bus, which carries address locations, which carries address of where exactly your program is there or your data is there inside the memory. And third one is the control bus, which carries the various control signals. The mainly used control signals by microprocessor are your read write signal. It can be for memory or input output devices. Then there is a signal to generate interrupts, as well as interrupt acknowledgement is there. And then based on the for what purpose you are using your microprocessor and in which configuration or in which interfacing you are using, that based on that you have the additional signals for it. So this part we have seen in the last lecture. Then we have seen the performance measures for computer architecture, where various factors like the scalability, the throughput, and response time, execution time, these factors we have seen. Now today onwards we are going to start with 8086 microprocessor. Very important part of your syllabus, again, which carries a maximum weightage in the syllabus also. And as I told you in the last lecture, maximum experiments here onwards, or I may say all the experiments which are left from the experiment list, from your practical list, are based on 8086 microprocessor. So in all way, it is very important chapter. And then what different assembly language instructions and programs we are going to learn here. Normally in the paper, 1 10 marks question asked on this program. So let's see for your exam how will be the paper pattern. We will discuss about that in the end after we finish all the syllabus. But this writing assembly language program is very important, and as I told you, you are going to have practical exam for this. So maybe in the practical exam you will be asked various questions based on assembly language programming. So in that all way, for practical as well as theory, this is very important chapter. So we are going to start here with 8086 architecture. Very simple and interesting part.
Ma'am, you have not shared your screen.
Yes, I will share now. I have not yet shared. I'll share. Just a minute. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we will start here with architecture for 8086 family. Okay, what are the contents of this part of the syllabus? We will see. First, we will start with architecture for 8086 family. It is said as a family because 8086 is going to have the basic number, as well as there are various versions of 8086. So that's why the whole versions comes under only one category. That's why it is called as 8086 family. From that, we are going to study here 8086 microprocessor. Next part we are going to study is addressing modes, how to write various instructions using addressing mode we will see. Then we will study the standard instruction set provided for 8086 for writing your assembly language programming. Then there is one more concept known as assembler directives. What is the meaning of that and where to use that, we will study here. Then we will see the concept of mixed language programming. assembly language with one more language, that is your C language. How you can combine both languages and write the program for 8086 microprocessor. And then the concepts of stack, procedures, and macros. How these concepts can be used in your assembly language programming, that everything we are going to study here. From this, in today's lecture, the part of interest for today is architecture, and if time permits, we will start addressing modes. Okay, now this 8086, this is a microprocessor. So when this microprocessor is there, or any microprocessor is there, first it is known by what is the size of that microprocessor. Size in terms of what is the data handling capacity of that microprocessor. Like you know the concept of bit now. 0 or 1 is a single bit. Then you are going to combine 4 bits together, which is known as nibble. Then you are going to combine 8 bits together, that is known as a byte. When you are going to combine 16 bits together, it is known as a word. When you are going to combine or work with 64 bits, it is known as double word. So these are the concepts: bit, byte, word, and double word. So any microprocessor's capacity of handling the data at a time is known as that is particular microprocessor is known with that much bit. For example, here in the feature, you will find the first feature is 8086 is 16-bit processor. What is the meaning of 16-bit processor? It tells that 8086 is possible to work with 16 bits data at a time, maximum 16 bit, not more than 16 bit. If you want to perform any addition, subtraction, or any kind of logical operation, maximum data you can handle is up to 16 bits only. It cannot work beyond that. So that's why it is known as 8086. The main feature is it is 16-bit microprocessor. When it is 16-bit microprocessor, that means the data handled by 8086 is 16-bit. So to carry this data, it requires data bus. So that is going to define the size of data bus. So 8086 has 16-bit data bus. Similarly, the data where it will be somewhere inside the memory locations. So that location's address is carried by address bus. So 8086 is possible to have 20-bit addresses or 20-bit locations it can address. The size of locations or size of address is 20-bit. That's why it has 20-bit address bus. Next is 8086 generate 16-bit IO addresses. What is the meaning of it? When there is a facility to connect input-output devices. What are input-output devices? We have simple one is keyboard, mouse, or you will go for your high-end devices for the nowadays processors or nowadays machines available. For 8086, you can think only of for keyboard thing. For output, you can think of either you can connect the printer or you can connect the monitor. So these IO devices, when you want to connect with the processor, it is going to give you ports, IO ports. So your 8086 is going to give you various IO ports and its addresses are 16 bits. So 2 raised to 16 is 65,536. That many IO ports are available with your 8086. Now we are not going to do the IO programming in detail, but some of the interfacing diagrams will be shown to you because it is a part of your experiment. So that time you will understand this concept in detail. Next is 8086 provides 14 16-bit registers. What is this 16-bit register? A register is a temporary memory location inside any microprocessor. These locations, as we have seen the flip-flop concept. The flip-flop is giving you some of the storage locations, and these registers are based on the concept or design with the help of flip-flops only. So these are some of the temporary memory locations inside any microprocessor. For 8086, you are available with all the registers. Size is 16-bit and total number is total 14 registers are there, with which you are available to write different assembly language programs. Then 8086 has multiplex address and data bus, which reduces number of pins. What it means, see here, this is a microprocessor. So this is one integrated circuit, one IC. You all must have seen your any kind of Pentium, Intel Pentium processors. When you studied the first experiment while surfing on internet, you must have seen the slot on the motherboard and all that things. Similarly, this 8086 is again one integrated circuit, and it has number of pins. Now in the feature, if you see point number second and third, it is telling you it has 16-bit data bus, it has 20-bit address bus. So when these buses are there, that means that many pins must be available on your IC. So when I go for these two, 20 plus 16, itself it is going for 36. That means only 36 pins are required dedicatedly just for data and address. And then other than that, you must be having various operations with 8086. So that many pins are needed. So because of just data and address bus, if you see, the number of pins are increasing. And due to that, it will be increasing the size of IC. So integrated circuit, why we are using this concept? We have to reduce the sizes of your electronic components. So here, to reduce the number of pins on your 8086 IC, it is giving you the concept of multiplex address and data. How multiplex address and data? Your address and data are combined together. They are joined together, and then somewhere you need to have the technology or technique which is going to separate it out and use for separately address and data of your program. We will see all these things in detail in the next coming slides. Then 8086, we have seen it is 16-bit processor, but still it is possible to go for bit, byte, word and block operation. Bit is single bit operation. Byte is your 8 bits data. Word is your 16 bits data. And block is your, you can imagine the 16-bit data or 8-bit data, and you are going to have multiple groups of that data. Like I have 10 numbers together. I want to work with all the 10 numbers at the same time. So that is known as a block operation. So all these operations are possible with your 8086. Then this is another very important feature of 8086. It operates in two modes. Which are the two modes? One is minimum mode and second is maximum mode. This is basically when 8086 is interfaced with some other hardware components. Some other hardware components may have some DMA ICs which are dedicatedly used for this direct memory access, or these are basically used for data transfer type. Some ICs are required just for interfacing it for interrupt controller. So all these various different components can be connected with your 8086. So these two modes are there. The minimum mode itself is telling minimum, that means only one 8086 microprocessor is used in the microcomputer system. When you are going to design a system using 8086, if it is working in minimum mode, it means that there is only one microprocessor. There is only one 8086. So in that case, all the control signals need to be issued by the 8086 microprocessor only. So which are the control signals needed here? Whether you are working with reading or writing operation, whether you are accessing IO devices or memory, whether any kind of interrupt is generated over there, and based on that your various signals are needed there. Whereas when 8086 you want to use for multi-processor system, it operates in maximum mode. Now when it operates in maximum mode, there is another IC required, which is required to generate the various control signals. That is known as 8288. This is known as external bus controller IC. These are the numbers that 8288 is having the specific operation of just controlling or generating various kinds of control signals. That's why its name is given as external bus controller. Then 8086 supports multi-programming. In multi-programming, code for two or more processes is in the memory at the same time and executed in time multiplex fashion. For your 8086 main feature, again it comes with, if you want to use this for designing any multi-processor system where you want to work for multi-programming, it is possible for 8086. The next very important feature is it provides you powerful instruction set. Instruction set is needed to write various assembly language programs for 8086. So for that it is providing you a large instruction set, or number of instructions are available which can be written in various addressing modes. What is the meaning of addressing modes and everything? In the next lecture we are going to study that. Right now here just a list of addressing mode is given: register, immediate, direct, indirect through an index or base, indirect through the sum of base and index register, relative and implied. These are the names of addressing modes. Addressing mode is very important concept when you are going to study any microprocessor or microcontroller. Fine, these are the various features. We'll just revise it once. 8086, 16-bit processor, 16-bit data bus, 20-bit address bus, generates 2 raised to 16 IO ports, provides 14 16-bit registers. It has multiplex address and data bus, perform bit, byte, block, word operation, works with two mode, minimum and maximum. When it is in minimum, only one microprocessor is there. When it is in maximum, you can have more than one microprocessor, and you are going to use 8288 bus controller for generation of control signals, and it supports multi-programming, and it provides you a powerful instruction set which can be written in various addressing modes. These are mainly known as your various features of 8086. Maybe in the exam or in your MCQ, you may get question for various features of 8086. So even in the Viva questions, normally this question is asked. You can list any of one or two features of your microprocessor, and based on that, these features you can list out. Okay, any doubt here you can ask, else we will start for the next part, architecture for 8086. Fine, we will start here with internal architecture. Now this is one IC, this is microprocessor. So internally, what are the various blocks available there? What are the different registers available over there? And how exactly the pin diagram of 8086 looks like, that we are going to see now. Now you can see you must have handled some of the ICs, or you must have seen before this. Actually speaking, when you work with digital electronics, we used to handle various ICs in the lab. But unfortunately, this time we are working with simulator. But you can just imagine this kind of 40 pin ICs available here. This is your 8086. 1 to 40 numbers are given here. Then some things are written here in the red color, and few pins are written here with the blue color. And here it is written, it is maximum mode and it is minimum mode. So what is the meaning of that? We will see now. This is your 40 pin IC. Any microprocessor works with VCC supply. It needs to have some kind of power supply. So you are given here with VCC. You are given here pin number 1 as a ground. Then it needs some kind of clock generator, because it works with some kinds of clock signals only. So for that purpose here, just a minute. So for that purpose you need, and here it is the clock signal given. You can see here, this is the clock signal, and with clock you require reset and ready pin also. So these pins are given here. Other than that, This is VCC we have seen, pin number 40, and this is your ground pin. Okay. Then in the features we are seeing that it has multiplex address and data bus. What is the meaning of that? You can see here. AD0 starting with this till your AD15. This is AD14 and here you have AD15. What is the meaning of this? A stands for address, D stands for data. Address and data buses are multiplex. They are combined together. That's why the number you can find here is AD0 to AD15. Why AD15 only? Because data bus is 16 bits only. So that pins are combined here. Other than that, the address bits are 20. So remaining pins are there. That is A16. You can see here A16, then 17, then 18 and 19. So these are your remaining 4 pins left out from address bus. These are combined with status pin signals, which are S3, S4, 5, 6. Then you require 8086 to highlight whether it is working in minimum or maximum mode. So for that, this min and max pin is there, this one. Minimum mode when this pin is 0, maximum mode when this pin is equal to, minimum mode when pin is equal to 1, and MX bar, this slash is given that indicates MX bar. So when it is connected to 0, your maximum mode is working. 8086 is working in maximum mode. Then you require read and write signal. So this read signal is given here. Other than that, you require here generation of interrupt. So INTR pin is there. One more interrupt is available here is non-maskable interrupt, that is NMI pin is given here. Other than that, what you require is whether this IC is working in minimum or maximum mode. Based on that, these 2 color highlighted pins are there. When it is working in maximum mode, these all red color pins are given here. These all red color pins are when this is working in maximum mode. When 8086 is working in minimum mode, you can find these are the pins given here in the blue color. So what happens? The same pins are there, but whether you are going to connect this M or MN or max pin to 0 or 1 will decide 8086 working in maximum or minimum mode, and likewise then these pins will get the functions. It is RQGT's request and grant pin, lock pin. These 3 are status pin. QS0 and QS1 is Q status indicated, whether the state Q is empty or Q has anything inside it, higher bits and lower bits, that is indicated. Similarly, the blue color pins, hold and HLDA. When any DMA controller is used with 8086 for memory transfer operations, these pins are used. Read and write signal, IO, M, whether it is input-output operations or memory operations. DTR is data transmit and receive. DEN is data enable pin. ALE is address/enable pin, and interrupt acknowledgement, INTA pin. So these blue color pins will come in picture when 8086 is working in minimum mode. And when it is working in maximum mode, all these red color pins will come in the picture. This is the general pin diagram shown for 8086. Fine, see the next slide. Next slide is showing you the internal architecture for 8086. Now, this is the general diagram. Similarly, you may have slight variations when you surf on the internet. I will be sharing the book, e-book for this part of the chapter, and you can refer the slides for the final theory exam also. Most of the content I'm putting on the slide, which is enough for your study. And some notes also I will be posting on Moodle after the lecture. This is your internal block diagram. Basically, it is divided into 2 blocks. You can see the dotted lines. Observe the diagram properly. Go through the diagram whatever titles are given and some blocks are given, and then I will explain you one by one. If you are connecting with mobile, you can slightly enlarge the screen and see the content exactly. Or if you are connected with your desktop or laptop machine, you can clearly see the diagram. I'll explain you. This is very important part in the paper also. You may get question on this. Draw internal architecture and explain it. See the dotted line, which is clearly converting or dividing this diagram into two. One is bus interfacing unit. You can see the left side, I am highlighting on the screen also. And then you can see here it is EU. This is execution unit. So basically, 8086 architecture is broadly or majorly categorized, divided into two parts. One is execution unit, which is going to take care of all the execution part. And second is bus interfacing unit, BIU. Bus interfacing unit, if you see, it is connected to the memory interface. You can see this block. Memory interface is outside world for 8086. Because internally what it is going to deal with, any microprocessor, internally it is going to deal with some part. But for him or for the microprocessor, for its internal interface, your outside world is the memory through which it is going to get the data. So for that, this is memory interface is shown here. Now what are these different things inside this? You can see now. Execution unit, when I am going to think about, you can see in the execution unit what all things are there. Here you have the control system. You see this block I am highlighting on the screen. This is your control system, mainly used to generate various kinds of control signals required for any kind of operation. Then you have arithmetic logic unit. This is very important part of any microprocessor, ALU. It is going to deal with all the mathematical as well as logical operations. In mathematical operation, you have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. In logical operations, we have seen all the logic gates. These are all the operations which are available. Operations are not, and, or, XOR. So these are all operations available inside your microprocessor with the help of arithmetic and logic unit. Now, when you want to perform addition on two numbers, one number may be 10 and second is 20, just a random example I'm taking. So this 10 plus 20 I want to perform. So where to keep this 10, where to keep this 20? When you write any simple program in any programming language, immediately what you do, you declare it with some variables. I go with some integer data type and I write integer a is equal to 10. Then I write integer b is equal to 20. And then I write instruction c is equal to a plus b. And then I will print it or I will see out it. Right? So similarly, when I want to work with any microprocessor, I need to keep this 10 and 20 and its answer will be 30 somewhere inside the microprocessor. And that is available here with the help of registers. These are your registers. I am highlighting on the screen, you can see here. These are four registers which are known as general purpose registers. Registers are temporary memory locations. Here for 8086, you are available with these four sorry, general purpose registers. Size is 18 bit. Size is 16 bit. But this 16 bits can be used separately 88 bits. That's why it is written as AHAL. Together it is known as AX. When I'm going to write AX, it is 16 bit. But sometimes I don't want to use 16 bits, so I can use lower or higher 88 bits separately. That is indicated here with AH and AL, BH and BL, CH, CL, DH and DL. A is known as accumulator register, B is known as base register, C is known as count register, and D is known as data register. AX, BX, CX and DX will be 16 bit. Separately, if you want to go for 88 bits, you can go like this one. These are your general purpose registers used as some temporary memory locations inside microprocessor where you can keep your data of your program for arithmetic as well as logic operations. Then when any microprocessor will work on this, what happens if I'm adding two numbers? My result will be, it can be zero result, it can be any kind of carry generated over there, it can be some kinds of parity bits generated over there. So these are some of the observations of your output. Like I'm adding or I'm dividing two numbers, maybe my answer is 1 or maybe my answer is 0. So to indicate the status of previously executed instruction, your microprocessor sets it with the help of some flag bits, which is coming here as a part of flag register. Here it is given flag. What is the meaning of flag? Flags are some single bit, or it is individual bit forming a register. It is 16-bit register. So from that, some of the bits are going to indicate what is the status of the microprocessor after performing any kind of ALU operation. If you are transferring some data or if you are working with any arithmetic logic operation, whatever the operation microprocessor has performed previously, it will indicate with the help of the different bits which are known as flag bits. Other than that, you have these four registers: SP, BP known as stack pointer and base pointer, SI and DI known as source index and destination index. These are again some of the registers which are required internally when you are going to have various kinds of addressing modes. When your data is there somewhere inside the memory, to take that data and provide that to the microprocessor, you need to have these various four registers. So these are your forming the part of your execution unit. Similarly, when microprocessor is going to take data from memory interface, it is going to have help of, it is going to take help of different registers. These are the four registers there. ES stands for extra segment, CS stands for code segment, SS stands for stack segment, and DS stands for data segment. These four registers are the major part of your segments, which is providing you the segmentation concept with 8086. In the operating system, you will be studying the paging and segmentation. The same concept is provided here. When you are going to write assembly language program, you are going to use these different segments to write your program. It's quite easy to write that once you understand what these segments are particularly designed for. We will see that diagram next. Next, you have instruction pointer. This is IP. Instruction pointer's major operation is it will point to the instruction that must be fetched and executed by your microprocessor. Once one instruction is sent for execution, microprocessor will fetch another instruction and then it will be ready in the queue so that it will reduce the execution time. Our main intention is we need the speed up of operations. So for that, what is it is going to do? It will be keeping all the things inside the queue, and for that, one by one, it will go on indicating the next instruction in the queue. So to keep that, microprocessor has this 6-byte queue. This part you can see here. This is your instruction queue. This is total 6 bytes. What is indicate? It will take 6 bytes instruction in the queue. Before execution, all the instructions are fetched and they are ready inside the queue. What is how you can interpret this? Normally, when we call you for any kind of submission or in the college, I'm saying, or maybe for Viva, what we tell you or what your teachers tell you, next 3 students be ready in the whichever lab you are sitting, for example. So what I'm telling, next 3 students be ready. As we finish this current 3 students Viva, we will call you. So why we are doing that? That we don't want to waste the time to call the students and search the students and then that student should be ready अरे मेरा number है, and then he is lost. This kind of things we don't want. To reduce the time of your viva, what we do, three are there sitting in front of your examiner, and next three are there waiting in the queue. When these next three will go, another next three students will be waiting in the queue. The same concept is used here with the instruction queue. The 8086 supports 6-byte instruction queue, and it is the job of instruction pointer to point to the next instruction in the sequence, and one by one the instructions are fetched. So this is your mainly forming your architecture. Two parts, execution unit take care of execution. When you call it as a execution, what you require for execution is generation of control signals, generation of all the ALU operations, generation of flag to see the status of your previously executed operation, and to keep your data in the temporary memory locations, you require some of the general purpose registers. Similarly, when you go for bus interfacing unit, it is the interface to the outside world. Outside world is the memory, different primary or secondary memories used in your computer system. It will fetch the data from memory location with the help of the segment registers. It will fetch the instructions, and that will be kept ready inside the instruction queue. And one by one, your instruction pointer will point to the instruction which are sent to the control systems, and then it will control the different operations which are required to be performed by your processor. This is the general architecture or internal block diagram for 8086. This is the description given. I'll just main points only I will highlight here, because already we have discussed this part. Afterwards, you can go through the slides in detail. Execution unit tells BIU from where to fetch the instructions or data, decode the instruction, and execute. It contains control circuitry, instruction decoder, ALU, flag register, general purpose register, pointer, and index registers. Again, these are the operations given. What is the operation of ALU? What is the operation of control circuitry? That everything is given here. Okay, you can just see this is the internal registers which are available with 8086. General purpose are, you can see here, AX. Separately, I can use like AL and AH. BX. Separately, I can use like BH and BL. Similarly, CX and DX. Index are base pointer, stack pointer, source index, and destination index. So these four are here. You have segment register, code segment, stack segment, data segment, and extra segment. Then you have flag register and you have instruction pointer. Now if you count this, these are 4 plus 4 plus 4 and these two. Total number is 14. These are all 16-bit register. Total number is 14, 1 4. This is the thing given here. The names of this register: accumulator, base, count, data, stack pointer, base pointer, source index, and destination index. Same thing is given here. Either you can use 8-bit separately or 16-bit together. Same structure is shown in the programmer model. You may get some question on this. Explain the register, internal register organization of 8086. So you should be talking about this all 14 registers. Additional to this is ES, extra segment, CS, code segment, DS, and SS. And last one is instruction pointer. These registers are shown here. Same internal organization question. These registers are shown here separately. In detail for your query answer, this content is given. I have already explained you. You can just see this part afterwards. Now this memory offset and this concept is there. I'll explain you that time these registers, how it is used, I will tell you. Okay. Coming to the flag register now. This flag register is a flip-flop which indicates some condition produced by execution of an instruction or control certain operations of execution unit. Flag register is 16-bit. It is in execution unit. It contains total 9 active flags are there. Which are they? I'll show you the diagram. See this? This is the flag register. Little bit you enlarge your screen and you can see this. This is 16-bit register. From that, only 9 bits are active, which are indicating some of the flags. Remaining bits, wherever you are finding cross written here or X written here, are reserve bits, which are not in use. So what are these different flag bits are? From this total 9, 6 bits are there indicating the status of previously executed program. That are status flag bits. 3 are there to control microprocessor for various operations. That's why they are known as control flag bits. What are these different bits? Starting from left hand side, you have a carry flag, parity flag, auxiliary flag, zero, sign, trap, interrupt enable, direction, and overflow. From this, direction, interrupt, and trap, these 3 are known as control flag bits. Control flag bits are going to control some operation with 8086. Whereas this remaining 6, carry, parity, auxiliary flag, zero, sign, and overflow, they are going to just indicate the status of previously executed operation. What is the meaning of that? We will see now. Condition flag bits are set according to some results of arithmetic operation. You need not alter the value yourself. You're not allowed to change the values of these flag bits. Whereas control flags are used to control some operations of microprocessor unit. These flags are to be set by you in order to achieve some specific purposes. That's why it is known as control. I want to control some operation of microprocessor through program. So I'll write some instructions which will control that flag bits. That's why it is known as control bit. Which are various conditional bits. So conditional flag bits, the first one is carry flag. What is the meaning of carry? We know when we are going for binary addition or subtraction thing, there is carry or borrow generated. So the same carry flag is used as a borrow flag when you are going to work with subtraction instruction. This is the flag bit if there is any carry out of MSB. I'm working for 8-bit addition operations or 16-bit addition. So if there is any carry generated out of most significant bit, this flag bit will set to 1. Same flag bit acts as borrow when you are going for subtraction operation. Next one you have is parity flag. Parity flag is set to 1 if the result of byte operation or lower byte of word operation contains even number of ones in the answer. Otherwise, it is set to 0. What is the meaning of this? If I am going to ask you to go for addition of 2 numbers in binary, you will get some final answer. And if I ask you, tell me whether the answer's parity is even or odd. So what it means, if it is going to count, it will count number of ones. You are going to count number of ones in the final answer. And if you find that there are even number of ones, 0101 का combination जो है binary का, उसमें even number of ones are there. From 8 bits, there are 4 bits even. That is 4 bits are 1 and 4 bits are 0. Then this flag is set to 1. But if there are 3 bits are 1 and 5 bits of 0 is there, that means it is odd parity. That's why it is that in that case it will be set to 0. So just to indicate the word operation or any byte operation, answer is even or odd. Then you have auxiliary carry flag. Auxiliary carry flag is set when there is overflow out of bit number 3. That is carry from lower nibble to higher nibble, D3 to D4 bit. In that case, this flag will be set to 1. This flag is used in BCD operations. When you are going for BCD operations, that time this is used. The meaning of nibble is 4 bits together is called as a nibble. So when you are going to have 8-bit number, you can divide it into 2 nibbles, lower nibble and higher nibble. And when in addition or any kind of operation, there is a carry generated from lower to higher nibble, it is known as auxiliary carry flag. That's why it is known as auxiliary flag there. Then you have 0. When any the result is 0, that means the 0 flag is set to 1. It can be any addition or it can be any logical operation. Answer will be 0. Next is sign flag. Sign flag indicates whether your answer is positive or negative. Any ALU operation, if MSB is set answer of MSB of result is 1, then sign bit is set. Sign bit 1 indicates the result is negative, else the result is positive. And the last one you have is overflow flag. Overflow flag is set if the result is out of range. When you are performing some 8-bit or 16-bit operations and you find that result is not coming in the range of your register, it is overflow. Result is overflow out of your range of the registers. That time overflow flag is set. Next 3 flag bits are your control flag bits. In the control flag bit, you have first one is trap. Trap is used for single stepping. If it is set, that means every instruction is executed one by one. I don't know how you have run your program of Turbo C or C programming. If I want to see any output of my particular instructions or group of instructions, instead of executing whole program, I may set their trap. Trap is I'm going to press some F7 key one by one to execute each and every instruction and see what is the output of that single instruction. So that is known as some kind of trap set with the help of trap flag bit. This is single stepping. Else normally we run the whole program together and we used to see the final answer of the program or final output of the program. But you are available to set the trap also. Next is interrupt. Interrupt is any kind of any interruption if you want to generate when your microprocessor is executing. That time you can set it with the help of interrupt flag bit. Certain type of interrupts, some are there maskable or external interrupt, can be recognized by 8086. Otherwise, these interrupts are ignored. It depends on whether you are generating any hardware interrupt or software interrupt. In our program, we are going to generate software interrupts. Writing our assembly language program, we are going to write few programs on interrupts also. And next one you have, or last flag bit is direction flag bit. It is mainly used in the string instructions. String instructions are working with your character type of data. So for example, if I'm writing the string, welcome to microprocessor lab, I'm going to set that if I'm writing welcome to microprocessor lab and direction flag bit is set to 0, it will start the first word of or first letter of my string. The first letter is the beginning letter, which is W. Welcome ka W pe, it will be setting that. But if I want to set it to the last word, I want to read the string in the reverse operation. I'm going to ask you to write a program. Read the string in reverse operation or reverse order. I'm writing welcome to microprocessor lab. Lab ka jo B hai last word, I want to start reading from the reverse order. So that time I will set this direction flag to 1. So it is up to you Whether you want to read the string from beginning of the string to the last word, going in the increment manner, or you can set it to the last word and come down with the decrement manner. So to set the direction of your string operations, this is direction flag is used for that. So these are the operations that you can control. As I said, trap. I want to execute the program single instruction at a time. So that is some instruction user is going to control. I want to generate some interrupt through software instructions. I want to set direction of my string reading operation from reverse order. So these are some of the operations programmer can set with the help of some of the software instructions. That's why these are known as control flag bits. The user has access to set or not to set these bits. Whereas if you see the status bits, you are not going to control whether carry should be generated or not. You are not going to decide what will be the parity of your result. So that's why these flag bits are known as status flag bits. So your flag registers divided into two: control bit and status bit. Control bits are three: trap, interrupt, and direction. Whereas status bits are carry, auxiliary carry, sign, zero, overflow. Which is left now? One is left. Zero, sorry. Carry, parity flag, yeah. Auxiliary carry, zero, and sign. So these are your conditional bits. Got it? Flag register. Again, normally in your Viva, normally questions are asked and question is just to write this slide. Flag register question will be asked for 6 marks. Explain the flag register for 8086. So you can draw this flag register and just list out these bits and explain for what purpose these bits are used for. Got it? This is your flag register. For this particular content, this slide content is very much enough to write your answer. Additional information, if you want to refer, you can use any material afterwards also. Got it? So we have completed this execution unit part. This part we have seen these registers, this flag, and this ALU. Okay. Now we will talk about this BIU, bus interfacing unit. BIU is 8086 interface to outside world. Outside world with the help of memory operations. For that, it provides bidirectional data bus and 20 bits of address bus. Basic operations of BIU is it is responsible for, first it has to search where exactly your program and data is. So regarding to that, it will be sending the addresses of memory locations or IO devices. It will fetch the instruction from memory, read the data from the port, write the data to the port, and it will support your instruction queuing. Instruction queuing is already 6 instructions are fetched. For that, it mainly has 3 content: instruction queue, segment register, and instruction pointer. Instruction queue, it works in, first out. Whichever instruction comes first, it will go out. It is known as queue. Size is 6 byte. At a time, it can go up to 6 byte instruction of prefetching. Now what happens normally when this prefetching is there? If everything is running in the sequential manner, it's fine. Everything is running properly. But sometimes what happens? Based on some conditional instructions, you need to empty the queue, because if any kind of jump or call instruction comes, what happens? Processor is not interested in whatever prefetch data is there. It has to go to some other locations and take the data. So that time the content of queue must be dumped and it must be reloaded starting from new addresses specified there. It happens in case of jump and call instructions. This concept is also known as pipelining. In COA next chapter, we are going to study 6-bit or 6-stage pipeline structure. So this concept is supported for any kind of microprocessor as well as microcontroller. Then next very important part here is segment registers. Normally in the paper you may get 20 marks, short note question on segment register, and all the programs we are going to write is with the help of segment registers only. So for that, see the concept of segmentation. Your 8086 uses memory segmentation. How it will use that? In the features we have said it has 20-bit address bus. So this 20-bit address bus indicates that when you write 2 raised to 20, it goes to 1 megabyte of memory location. What it means? 8086 is possible to address to that many memory locations, or it will be available for writing your program. That much of memory is given to you. But all our registers, we are saying they are only of 16 bits wide. So how to go for that? So there is a concept of logical and physical address. What is that? We will see. You can see this diagram here. This diagram is telling you the segmentation in your 8086. What happens? Your 8086 is giving you 1 megabyte of memory. So from that 1 megabyte of memory, you are available to use 64 kilobytes memory at a time for one segment. Which are the segment? You have data segment, starting with, you can see here it is data segment. Then you have code segment. Then you have stack segment. And last one you have extra segment. So where these segments will be? It will be inside your 1 megabyte of memory location. So how to indicate the locations? So for that, it requires some kind of address numbers. These are the memory location address number. It starts with, for data segment, for example, it is starting with 20,000. And from that, you count 64 kilobyte memory locations, and final number you will get is this one, 2FFFFF. So this, in between these two numbers, you are available with any data which you can be used for data segment. Size will be 64 kilobytes. Similarly, you can go for code, stack, and extra. So if you see, this address is 5-bit number. This is 20-bit address. And we are going to work for all 16-bit operations here. So how to convert this 16-bit to 20-bit? That is known as logical to physical address translation. It is also known as effective address. What is the meaning of effective address? I'll show you now. So 8086 treats this 1 megabyte memory divided into segments. Maximum size of each segment will be 64 kilobytes. 4 segments are used there. Every segment has bottom address and top address, or starting address and end address. 4 segments are there: code segment, stack segment, extra segment, and data segment. How to convert this? We are going to see the next example. I'll not read this part. We will see that again. Then you have instruction pointer, mainly to point to the instruction which you want to fetch in the next execution of the program. Series. How to go for this? Conversion from logical to physical address. Your instruction pointer will always point to the location of the instruction in the program. So that location address will be 16-bit address only. And every segment has its own base address, which is again 16-bit. So for that 16-bit, the last bit is added with all zeros. So your 16-bit address is converted into 20-bit, plus it is going to add the 16-bit offset, which is given by instruction pointer, and final number you will get will be the 20-bit physical address. How to go for this? See the example, I will show you. Like this, the internal circuitry is there available inside your BIU, which will convert any address, 16-bit address, into 20-bit physical address. This is also known as translation. See the example. If your data segment starts at location 1000H and data is there at the reference address of 29, so where exactly this data is? So how to calculate that? First is segment address of 1000. I'm adding here this last 4 zeros. You can see this with the different color. And then you are going to add this 29 so that the final address you are going to get for that exact data will be this one. The last block you can see here. This is your final address you are going to get. What is the meaning of this? Now you can see here. When you are sitting in class, you can just imagine your class arrangement is you are going to have some 5 columns or 5 rows are there in your classroom. So these are the 5 sets of benches, and in every column you are going to have some 10 benches. We will just imagine. So in class, overall in class, you are going to have 50 benches, and they are divided into first 5 columns and then there are various rows. Now, if I want to find out any particular bench number, how I can go for that? If any student is sitting on some bench number 5, so where this bench number 5, in which column this bench number 5 is there, that you can find out with the help of this offset and segment. If we imagine that there are only 4 columns in the class, 4 columns named as, one is code segment, second is data segment, third is extra, and fourth is stack segment. I'm going to tell that I want a student, some XYZ student, who is sitting in the code segment at bench number 5. So how I can go to that is, first I need to find out which is the code segment. For which row you are going to give this name as a code segment. So I'll first reach to that code segment based location, like I will be reaching to the first bench of your code segment, and then from that I will walk to 5 locations and then find out who is sitting on the 5th bench. The same concept is used here with the help of offset. When I'm going to say that it is at the 5th location, this 5 is known as the offset address. In this case, here it is telling you 29 is the number. Your data segment starts at location 1000. I will first reach to 1000 location. Then from that location, I need to walk 29 locations. This is known as the offset value. Offset, also known as effective address. And these two together will tell me the exact location of my data. How to get that? First, this 1000 I need to convert into 5-bit, adding 00 at the last bit. Then I will add this 29 number and I will get the final address of the location. Same concept is used for 4 segments: data, code, extra, and stack. Like this, you can see. It is indicated with the help of segment and offset address. Segment will be giving you the best location of the segment. Offset will tell you from that how many locations you need to go. For example, here you can find out the segment address is A4FB, and from that offset value is 4872. What I will do, A4FB, I need to convert it to 20-bit by adding this last 0 here, and then I will add 4872 into this, and finally I am going to get some number like this. This number is the exact location of my data or program inside that particular segment. This is known as a physical address. Physical address is always 20-bit, whereas logical address is always 4-bit, and with that you are going to specify offset value, segment base value and offset value. This is your logical address. And converting it into 20-bit and adding will give you 20-bit physical address. Normally asked question in the Viva, what is logical address and what is physical address? How will you convert logical address into physical address? So this is as simple as that. Just add 0 at the LSB position, convert it into 20-bit, and then add the offset value and get the final physical address. Like this, you can imagine. If your data segment is starting at 7FA2, this is 7FA2. Then I need to put 0 at the end. So this is my starting location of data segment. From that, I'm going to have 64K memory. This whole square or this whole block is your 64 memory, 64 kilobyte memory. And then I want to go to this offset value, 438E, where I will get 438E, 7F820 plus 438E, it will be giving me number like this. So inside my whole 64 kilobyte memory, my exact data is located at this location. So it is having this 0 location, and from that, this is the highest location. The bottom and top address is there. In between, you are going to have your data of the desired program. This is data segment. Same way you can imagine for code segment. This is another example. For data segment, your offset is directly given. But when you go for code segment, the name is code. Code is instructions of your program. So for that, you need to take help of instruction pointer. So your instruction pointer will point to some location. And there exactly your desired data is there. Same example is shown with the code segment. Base address is 0400. Convert it into the 20 bit, add the offset value and reach to the specific location. The physical address is also known as absolute address. Here it is given. Effective address or offset value. This is the offset value or effective address. And final address is known as physical address. This is another example shown for data segment. This is for stack segment. When you are going to work with stack, push and pop operation, same way the concepts are there. Only you need to find out what is the base address, what is the offset value, and reach to that specific location there. Got it? Any doubts here? Please ask. Now, where this offset value is written and how you are going to write it is going to make your addressing mode. That will be our next part. We will continue that in the next lecture. For today, you just see this, how this logical to physical address conversion is shown here. I hope these things are clear to you. If not, please ask your doubts. In the program, we will see how to write all these things. So this is your summary for today's lecture. We have started with features of 8086. Then we have seen the architecture diagram for 8086. Mainly two parts, BIU and EU, bus interfacing unit and execution unit. And then various registers, mainly general purpose register, AX accumulator, BX base register, CX count register, DX data register. Then some stack pointer register, SP and BP, stack pointer and base pointer. Then two index registers, source index and destination index. Then we have seen the segment registers, stack segment, code segment, extra segment, and data segment. And then the concept of instruction queue. And additional to this is the flag register. Total 9 bits are active bits. From that 9 bits, 3 are control and 6 are status bits. This all is forming your architecture. On these slides, any 10 marks question will be definitely asked in the paper. It can be on segment register, or it can be on register organization, or the internal architecture or features of this, or logical to physical address translation. Any doubts here, please ask. I will post the slides on Moodle after this lecture. Any doubts, please ask me. Else, actually, the next part is addressing board, but it will not be covered in next 10 minutes. So I don't want to start it. Next part. The next part of the syllabus I will be starting in tomorrow's lab time. And for this, the lab time I mostly use for this one theory as well as practical. Some kind of theory first we will see, and then we will write some programs and see that. Okay, if anybody has any doubt regarding today's lecture or earlier part of your submission also, please ask. Today I can see maximum number in the class. So I just want to repeat few things which we had already discussed in the previous lecture regarding your submission part. Let me just share one screen and then we will talk. I hope you all can see my Moodle screen. Okay. Yes, it is visible. This is the screen that when I am going to log in, I am the course teacher. So when I am going to log in, I can see the screen like this. Basically, what points I want to highlight, for that I am showing this screen. The quiz on fundamental digital logic design, digital electronics. Out of 69, only 58 students have attempted. Data algorithms, out of 69, 57 students have attempted. I'm reminding you, last uh, week also and yesterday also I posted a message on your group. This part I want to tell you. Here is a quiz available on components and peripherals of computer system. This is based on your experiment number 1. Out of 69, 35 students only have attempted. Due date is tomorrow, 23rd March. Then this is your experiment number 1. 62 have submitted out of 69. 10 ungraded. Ungraded are the one who have copied or who have not satisfied the requirements. If you have uploaded it again, I have not checked. I will check it tomorrow after your all submission. Similarly, for experiment number 2, 58 have submitted. For experiment number 3, 42 out of 69 have submitted. And experiment number 4, which is multiplexer, which is due date is tomorrow, 17 only have submitted. If you want to see, there are the common names who have not submitted these experiments. And there are the common names which I would like to appreciate, who are submitting everything on time. You all know who are the common names for both categories. I don't want to highlight any student's name. Due date I have given is tomorrow, that is 23rd March. If the second category, who are not submitting things on time, are not going to fulfill the requirement or meet the deadline, some kind of action will be taken against them. And the action will be, first thing, I will not allow you to enter in the COA lecture as well as practical from tomorrow onwards, because the deadline is tomorrow and time set is 2 p.m. So before we start our lab session, you have to submit the remaining work. If anybody is facing any difficulty in that, platform is open. Right now you can discuss with me. Shubham, you're not getting proper output. Let me finish this part and then you can share your screen. We will see. For those who are not submitting things on time, I'm asking them any difficulties that you are facing, please, platform is open, you can share with me. Let me know your difficulties. The common names, if you want to ask me, Alisha Ansari, not submitted. Aman Khaki, not submitted. Riddhi. Riddhi, can you unmute yourself?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Riddhi. What problem you are facing? You have not submitted anything, not attempted quiz.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the problem is that I'm not at a proper place. That is, I don't have a Wi-Fi provision, because of which I cannot install proper softwares for which on which I can perform the experiments and submit.
So from your end, you are going to be in the same situation or you want to have some solution on that?
Ma'am, I'm looking for solutions. Once I find, I will submit. And don't worry, I'll do it soon, because I don't think I'll be out like this for a long time. I'll go home fast.
Where are you? In which part of Maharashtra? You are
I'm
in
actually
Mumbai?
my native place. No, no, I'm actually at my native place.
Okay. Second is Alisha Ansari, Mohammad Ansari, Aman Khaki. Please, anyone, if you are facing problem, please tell me. Let me tell you the other names also. Vishal and Vikram. क्या प्रॉब्लम है बाबा? Yes, Vishal, Vikram.
I have submitted now. I have submitted.
You are not audible properly, Vikram.
We are going to submit today, ma'am.
अच्छा, आज का auspicious moment you have found out. Very good.
मैं मैं कर रहा हूँ.
Next, Alisha Ansari. Please unmute yourself and tell me. I know for remaining student you must be finding it kya time pass hai, but I need to find some solution on this because never ever I have faced from second year the difficulty in getting the submissions on time. This shows your attitude towards your punctuality and your submissions. If you're not punctual in your submission thing, there is no meaning of intelligence because I am going to judge you with the help of, I'm going to give you marks on your submission work and that thing you are not doing on time. So there is no meaning of it. I hope you all are understanding. Those who are doing everything on time, for them, this is a kind of punishment to listen the same thing again and again. Mitesh, you have not submitted few things. Mohammad Ansari, you are there, not submitted. Then Omkar also, you also have not. Pratik, please unmute yourself.
यस मैम.
या क्या प्रॉब्लम है बाबा? मन
मैम
नहीं करता
सबमिट
है
करता
क्या?
हूँ मैं.
हाँ,
5 to 10 minutes में सबमिट करता हूँ मैम.
see tomorrow if you are not going to meet the deadline, definitely I will not allow you to come in the class. So better you don't join because I don't like to ask you to leave the class. It's a kind of thing that I'm asking you to get out of the class. I don't want to do that. If you want to keep your respect, please be on time. Tejas, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? If I'm missing any other names also, they are there, but mainly the names that right now I'm highlighting. Rupesh, Manjiri, Kaustubh. And if any name I have missed out from the defaulters, I'm saying. First thing is this, that tomorrow I'm not going to allow you to enter in the class. By tomorrow, even if it is not completed, next punishment will be this remaining one, the names that I have highlighted just now. Your punishment will be all the remaining experiment will be submitting handwritten copies. आपको सबमिशन तो करना है, अगर ये COA के एग्जाम के लिए अपियर होना है एट द एंड ऑफ द सेमेस्टर, सबमिशन इज मस्ट पार्ट. बट वो सबमिशन आप कैसे करोगे? यू विल राइट इट ऑन अ पेपर विथ योर पेन, हैंड रिटन कॉपी. You will take photo of that and that only you will upload. Tomorrow 2 p.m. will be the last day. After that I am going to lock all submissions. This lock facility is available on Moodle. For a particular name I can lock the submissions. And I'm going to use that facility here onwards on your class. I'm not happy with the students who are not submitting the things on time. Any problem you have in every session, I ask you, if you're facing any problem, please let me know. Please clearly tell me. But if there is no problem, that means you are just ignoring the instructions. And this ignorance will not be affordable to you. I'm warning this. I'm reminding and then I'm warning you. So tomorrow 2 p.m. is the last time or last day to submit all things, appear all the quizzes. If not, please don't show me your face. I'm very happy with the regular students who are doing everything on time, and I will be happy to teach them and start the assembly language programming. I repeat you, I tell you repeatedly, I'm telling you that you are going to face practical exam for this subject. And it is not compulsory for me that you should be passed in the exam. If you are fail, it's your choice. Because you are selecting these things by your choice. If the 60% of the class is doing well, that means there is no problem these people are facing. 1 or 2 cases, I can understand. If you're really facing, you please let me know. Else, by tomorrow 2 p.m., don't come and enter in the class. Unnecessarily, don't waste our time. Me and 60% of the class. You value our time and don't do this again. And I will be very happy if remaining 40% will also come in line, so that I may say that I'm getting good performance. Amdahl's law that will be applicable in improving your things, in improving your performance of the class. If anybody really has some problem and right now they are not able to tell in front of class, you be there in the class. After this, let the students leave and you tell me your problem. I'm posting the attendance link. Please mark your attendance.